Ladies and gents, boys and girls, Friday, May the 19th, 2023. Hope you're all doing well. Chris Phillips here, your host of the Daily Crow of the Spurs Up Show. Appreciate you all tuning in. TGIF here on this Friday. It's also a massive Friday on the Diamond as South Carolina begins their series and will play both games 1 and 2 today at Founders Park. Got a lot to get into here on this Friday. I see Austin Miller, see Youngblood, GA, Gavin, John Edward, Brennan M, Xavier, Lynn Turner, Travi. What's going on? Appreciate you all tuning in. Also, those in the Big Cock Club Discord, head over to the TDC Questions channel. The TDC Questions channel, be sure your questions are answered there in our third hour. Of course, our Q&A power hour, if you will. We'll take all of your questions, your comments, and your calls. Guys, in the meantime, if you cannot call in that 2 to 3 o'clock time slot, go ahead, call our hotline, 843-790-3377. Get your questions in, get your comments, whatever you got, or you can flood the YouTube chat, and we'll take all of your questions, comments, and calls, as I mentioned, in our third hour. Guys, in the second hour, yes, 2 to 3 Eastern time, Gavin, yes. Again, if you cannot call in that hour, you can hit 843-790-3377. Buzz the phone line, send a text, what have you, and Gavin will get to the question. We'll play the voicemail in that third hour. Guys, really excited because in the second hour of today's show, we got my good friend Pete Futak of collegefootballnews.com. This is a conversation we had a couple of days ago, but we will air it in the second hour of the show today. So really, really excited for you guys to hear that. We talk everything from his 2023 Gamecocks season preview, breakdown, prediction, top players, win total, all that good stuff, guys. A great combo and one that I know you guys are sure to enjoy. But in the meantime, of course, we got a lot to get into in this first hour, tons to discuss. Really quickly, though, before we get going, and I mentioned this yesterday on the show, but I want to announce it more formally here. We have a new business partner and a new sponsor. That's always an exciting thing. You guys, starting next week, starting Monday, when we go to our 5-minute break, you will start to see their commercial running in the first 2.5 minutes or so. Carolina Fish Market. And I posted the video across social media. Very, very excited to announce Carolina Fish Market as our newest business partner. And guys, all Gamecocks seafood lovers out there, are you tired of searching for the freshest seafood in town? Look no further than our friends at Carolina Fish Market, your go-to destination for the finest and most flavorful seafood in the Carolinas and beyond. Guys, introducing the new Carolina Seafood subscription box, which is what they sent me. A culinary delight delivered right to your doorstep. Guys, each month, you'll receive a carefully curated selection of fresh, local seafood sourced directly from the waters of the Carolinas and beyond. From succulent shrimp to mouthwatering grouper to flounder or tuna and everything in between, our subscription box brings the ocean's bounty straight to your Gamecock kitchen. Now, what sets the Carolina Fish Market apart is their commitment to quality and sustainability. They work closely with local fishermen and women who use responsible fishing practices, ensuring that every bite you take supports both your taste buds and our precious marine ecosystem. They've even won Best Seafood 5 out of the last 8 years. But guys, that's not all. For all listeners of the Daily Crow, of TSUS, we're offering free shipping. Free shipping, yes, on every Carolina Seafood subscription box, making it even easier for you to indulge in the flavors of the coast. Experience the convenience of joy of having fresh seafood delivered right to your door without any hassle. Guys, don't miss out on this incredible opportunity to elevate your culinary adventures with the Carolina Fish Market's Carolina Seafood subscription box. And like I told you guys, I got mine. It had flounder in there. It had halibut in there. It had sea bass, had salmon. I cannot wait to throw all this fish on the grill and cook it. And guys, it was fresh when I got it, threw it in the freezer, and I'll cook it at my leisure. It's absolutely incredible stuff. Join the seafood enthusiasts across the nation who are savoring the taste of the Carolinas, one delectable bite at a time, and just in time for Father's Day. Also, guys, you got a father, you got somebody in your family that loves good fish, loves seafood. Here you go. Here's your answer. Visit their website today, Carolina Fish carolinafishmarket.com. That's carolinafishmarket.com, and embark on a seafood journey like no other. Freshness, flavor, and convenience await you guys. Order your Carolina Seafood subscription box. The link is on the Spurs Up Show. Of course, we've thrown it across social media, but go to carolinafishmarket.com. Use promo code SPURS UP. You'll get $10 off your first purchase. And guys, like I mentioned earlier, free shipping as well. So again, that's promo code SPURS UP. SPURSUP, to get $10 off your first purchase. The Carolina Fish Market, where taste meets the ocean. So again, guys, check them out, carolinafishmarket.com, and really appreciate Jim and the fine folks over at Carolina Fish Market for being the newest business partner of the Spurs Up Show. And Phil has something to say. Something's fishy about this sponsorship. I agree. Phil, yuck, 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 yuck. He's got the yucks coming. With that being said, guys, it never fails. It never fails, right? Let's go ahead and jump into it. And I did not expect this to be the lead topic on today's show. But as I mentioned, Gamecock Nation or the Gamecock community are just being a Gamecocks content creator. There's never a dull moment. And you simply put, just never know what's on the horizon or what new topic or what new banter awaits each and every single day. So this morning, of course, we're all minding our business on Twitter. We're minding our business on social media, gearing up for a big day on the diamond. Didn't think there'd be anything too heavy to note or anything over the top in regards to conversation, just kind of casual convo on this Friday. No. In case you missed it, and I think we all agree right now, right? We're gearing up for a big 2023 football season. We all feel confident in the program that Shane Beamer's building and what he's doing at South Carolina. All is well on the home front. Well, not according to all people. Vincent Murphy, you may have never heard the name before. Vincent Murphy is a former Gamecocks offensive lineman who played under both Will Muschamp and one season under Shane Beamer in 2021. Well, a Twitter account went on to Twitter and said, the culture now is better than anything under Will Muschamp. Those were his players, so it's a reflection of his culture, and I'm assuming they were responding to something about the guys hitting the transfer portal and leaving or what have you. Vincent Murphy's father, who is, for some reason, Recital's Hair Salon on Twitter, at WDM Hair, had this to say in a quote tweet. He says, in response to the attack on Will Muschamp's culture, that, for most of us, I think all of us, we say, well, no, duh, that culture was toxic. That culture was negative. And I'll get into that more in just a second. But he had this to say: grasp at straws all you like. Was definitely not a Muschamp fan, although that is the guy that recruited my son. I will tell you, the culture is far worse now than before. Believe what you like. Truth is truth. He also doubled down on it in a later tweet where someone replied to him pushing back on his comments. He said in a quote tweet, again, listen to the media. Don't pay attention to facts and ride that Beamer train. If you guys actually knew the real truth, you'd be sad for the players. As you guys can see, if you're watching on YouTube, I've got my Fire Muschamp shirt on just for this occasion. And I posted the screenshot, or I posted the tweet, if you will, from Vincent Murphy's father in our Cockpit channel in our Discord, which is where all of our football news and banter goes. We also have a channel called Slap Dickery. And in retrospect, that's probably where it should have went. Now, let me say this. I'm not in the building. I'm not in the locker room. Neither are you. So on one hand, you sit here and you say, well, you know what? Maybe they do have some sort of perspective, Vincent Murphy and his father, that we simply put do not have. With that being said, for this to just randomly come out of the blue, it feels more like sour grapes than anything. And it feels like, again, I'm just guessing here, but it feels like a situation in which Vincent Murphy was on the 2021 football team. And as you all know, right, the transfer portal, NIL, it is a great part, a large part of the game of college football. And coaches have to make decisions in regards to how they manage their rosters. What this sounds like is the father of a player whose son was told, hey, you're better off going somewhere else. You're second on the depth chart. You're third on the depth chart. You're on the scout team, or you're simply put just not going to play here. It sounds like sour grapes. And I understand, listen, having sour grapes, but I've said it many times. Guys, holding a grudge, it only hurts the person who's holding the grudge in the end. South Carolina football's not negatively affected by this. Shane Beamer's not negatively affected by this. And while we may not be in the locker room, none of us have graced the locker room at South Carolina. We don't know what's going on behind closed doors, if you will. For Vincent Murphy's father to just blindly throw this out there with no supporting context in any other tweets at all, it's a weird move. It stinks of sour grapes. And like, as we sit here, we may not be in the building, but we're very closely connected to this program. And so, riddle me this. Are you trying to insinuate that the culture was better? I think back to 2020 when it all came crashing down. You had a Javon Kinlaw more than happy to go on public record and say, Gamecock fans are the worst on my soul. You had guys like J.C. Horn and Israel McQuamu, who I have no issue with and had no problem, by the way, with them opting out. But you had their family members, who recalls this, had their family members going back and forth with fans on Twitter, getting into spats. Guys, I've sat down with former players who played under Will Muschamp, multiple former players. You guys might recall one on a podcast a couple months ago, the Agogi podcast. Patrick Reedy, Corbett Glick, and Dawson Hoffman. All three of these guys played for both staffs. And we sat around, conversation on public record, microphones turned on, record button was hit. We sat around and talked about this. They were very open and honest with how disconnected the culture was and how negative it was. And listen, I know these Muschamp guys, they probably get really tired of people dancing on the graves of Muschamp, and it's very fun. It is. It's very fun to take swings at Will Muschamp. Again, I'm rocking a Fire Will Muschamp t-shirt right now. It's very fun to take swings at him because of what happened during his tenure at South Carolina. So I'm sure some of these Muschamp guys, they take that stuff a little bit personally, and it kind of rubs them the wrong way. But look at what happened. You know what I mean? And you got guys that I sat down with. You know, we've had some others as well. Gavin Bennett's another one who came on. I know he was a walk-on, but he was still in that locker room, in that building. I mean, there's just been so many people who were around the program, in the program, on the team that we've spoken to directly that you have heard them on our airwaves. Are these people making that up? And then, and if you want to listen, if Vincent Murphy's dad wanted to make the claim, the culture was nowhere near as bad as people want to make it out to be. You know what? Maybe that's true. I'll give you that. Maybe that's true. From your vantage point, maybe we're too harsh on the culture that Will Muschamp had during his tenure in Columbia. But to make an attack on Beamer and company, does anybody have a perfect culture? No. No. There's going to be folks who are disgruntled. Because as we mentioned, only 22 guys can start. Only a number of guys can play. There's going to be guys that, and especially when you have, you change offensive coordinators and you change coaches here and there. I mean, there's going to be, there's going to be sour grapes, guys. It's truly inevitable. It is. It's inevitable. Roster management happens and certain guys don't have positive experiences. Hey, that's the nature of the beast. But to hold a grudge in that manner, and you know who I really feel bad for here? You know who I really feel bad for? Is Vincent Murphy. Because he didn't ask for this shit. He didn't ask for this. He didn't ask for his dad to go out on Twitter. And at the end of the day, like, is this a huge deal? If this was in season, guys, would I be leading the show with this? Maybe not. But, it's middle of May. And I know we got baseball going on right now, but things are a little bit slower. So a tweet like this makes headlines in the Gamecock community. But either way, I feel bad for Vincent Murphy. I feel bad for him in this situation because who knows? Who knows how he actually feels? And we already know Shane Beamer's a guy that I won't say he takes things personally, but he doesn't forget, right? I mean, Shane Beamer, we've seen it time and time again. He's got an edge about him, which we like. He's got an edge. But he doesn't take stuff like this lightly, at least from what I've seen. You can disagree if you like. He doesn't take stuff like this lightly. He doesn't. And so I just stunned to see it, stunned that someone would make such a wild claim. And obviously, guys, I don't think this deters anything that Shane Beamer has going on. The culture is just fine at South Carolina, I would say. I mean, you got a Muschamp guy who left the program. He's begging to come back. Culture must be pretty good. Culture must be pretty damn good if you got guys like that. Please let me come back. I need to find my way back. It was. And I tell you this, it more so speaks to, and I don't give a damn how these Muschamp guys feel about it, man. It just speaks to, thank God. And I said this, I was on this whole fire Muschamp wave, and I was on that way before most people, or a lot of people. We'll just say that. I felt the vitriol. I felt the hatred. I felt the ruthlessness of the Gamecock fan base when I came out after that UNC game in year 4, 2019, 4 years ago, and said fire Will Muschamp. And I remember saying back then that I said, 5 years from now, we're going to look back and we're just going to laugh. We're going to laugh at the fact that we allowed Will Muschamp to grace our sidelines. And that's how I feel today as well. Like, it is wild. It's wild to me that took place in Columbia. And you want to talk about culture and how bad it was, how good it was, how toxic it was. Carolina can't do enough to distance themselves from that era. And I feel for a lot of the players from that era because we've talked about it on these airwaves. I feel for a lot of those guys because there's a lot of great Gamecocks that played for South Carolina from 2016 to 2020 that will never be remembered the way they should because of the era in which they played. Because most fans want to block out that it ever happened. I mean, the Outback Bowl that Carolina won in 2017, does anybody talk about that anymore? Does anybody? Does anybody think back to those days? Does anybody have a signed Jake Bentley football in their man cave? Does anybody have a framed? I don't know. Let me stop myself before I go overboard with it. But you get where you get what I'm saying. You get where I'm coming from. And again, I'm not in the locker room. You're not in the locker room. None of us are in the building. So I don't want to sit here and say, I know for a fact because I've seen it firsthand that the culture is this. The culture is better. It's better than it ever was under Will Muschamp. But I've talked to enough people who would know, talk about how disconnected it was, and guys were in their own cliques, doing their own things. And I mean, we've just talked and heard from enough people. We've heard from enough people. And again, is Shane Beamer's culture perfect? It may not be. I'm not sitting here saying it is, but it's a massive upgrade from what it was. That's for damn sure. So, and this applies in life too, right, guys? Like, be careful of whose opinion you give credence to, right? I mean, you know, is it someone's word we should be trusting? And I'll tell you this. You've got this Vincent Murphy tweet. I've got one other instance in which I've had the parent of a player, and you guys don't know this. I've had the parent of a player DM me about cultural issues, as I do air quotes, cultural issues, okay? That other player was a walk-on and never saw the field. Listen, got nothing but love for walk-ons. Got nothing but love for everybody who wears the garnet and black. But I'm going to need a little bit more. I'm going to need some guys who actually contributed and played. And, you know, if one of them dudes wants to stand up and stand out and say, hey, the culture's actually not what you think it is. This is going wrong. That's going wrong. This needs to change. Well, then, okay, we'll stop and listen and take those comments and those opinions maybe a little bit more seriously. But you're an offensive lineman who never played. You're a walk-on who never played. Like, you come off more so as you're coming from a place of sour grapes and being disgruntled and, well, my son didn't get a fair shake. That's how you come off. And even if it is true, there's some conversations, man, that belong behind closed doors, man. Like, you know what you're doing. You are entering the lion's den. You are throwing the alley-oop. When you go on Twitter and do what Murphy's dad did, you are throwing the alley-oop for yours truly to come in and slam dunk it and say, pipe down, slap dick. That's exactly what you're doing. That's exactly what you're doing. We're not in the building. I can't sit here and tell you for a fact Shane Beamer's culture is perfect. Nobody's culture is perfect. But while I may not be in the building, I may not be in there every single day. You, me, or probably most tuned into this aren't in there every single day. I'm willing to go on the record and say that the culture is a big part of South Carolina's success. It's a big part of Shane Beamer's success. And it is a massive, and I mean a massive upgrade from what South Carolina had under its previous head coach. That goes without saying. It's a given. It's not even up for debate. Guys, that being said, let's go ahead and jump into our first break of the day. On this side, I want to continue to keep the convo going here on this Friday. Appreciate you all tuned in. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
That's your Dougie, ho. That's your Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back. Appreciate you all tuning in here on this Friday, May the 19th, 2023. In case you missed it, In the last couple of minutes, Gamecock Baseball has thrown out a tweet. No more doubleheader today. South Carolina will take on Tennessee tonight at 7 o'clock in game 1 of this weekend series. So this one game that'll be played tonight at 7. There will be a doubleheader tomorrow beginning at 2 o'clock, 2 7-inning ball games. So South Carolina playing a pair of games tomorrow, just one game tonight at Founders Park, apparently because of field conditions. I guess the field is too damp to start up at 3 o'clock. But either way, there will be baseball tonight, 7 o'clock. Also want to say thank you to my good friend, Phil Harris. Let me get this pulled up here. My guy, Phil Harris, with the super chat, says it's a great day to be a Gamecock and a Ranger. Yes, sir. Phil, I appreciate you. Thank you all so much. Guys, if you want to show love to the channel, show support to the business, the content, everything we do, you can with super chat and super stickers on YouTube. All right, with that being said, I know that Luke RJ felt a little squeamish because of that conversation we just had about Vincent Murphy's tweet or Vincent Murphy's father's tweet, whatever. Any chance I get the opportunity to slam dunk on a slap dick, I'm going to take advantage. But on to more fun topics. We are reaching the point or getting close to the point in which you're going to start seeing projections, predictions, and folks putting certain labels on games for the upcoming 2023 season, yours truly included. As I've mentioned many times, we will drop my full season predictions, which will include most important 3-game stretch. Season will be successful if, and yes, I will label, in my opinion, my most important game for the 2023 season. And as mentioned before, we have Pete Futak of collegefootballnews.com upcoming in hour number 2 and in his season preview, which dropped a week ago, he listed his most important game as well. So again, we're reaching that point, talking season, if you will, in which those types of discussions will begin to take place. I'm not here on this Friday to tell you what my most important game of the upcoming football season is. I will save that for early July. However, I am here to tell you which game is not, in my opinion, the most important game. And I think this is conversation, and I think this is a take that will create some banter, some conversation, and maybe even some disagreement and divisiveness. Because from what I've seen, most of this fan base is labeling week 1 against the North Carolina Tar Heels in Charlotte as the quote-unquote most important game of the 2023 season. And at first glance, a couple of months ago, I would have agreed with you. But after really sitting on it and thinking about it, I couldn't disagree more. I couldn't disagree more that that's the most important game of the season. Let me give you some context why. Guys, you look at Shane Beamer's program, and, we're getting to a point as each year passes under Coach Beamer, trends start to show themselves, characteristics of his program, but also his football teams. And if you notice, South Carolina has started slow in each of Shane Beamer's first 2 seasons, and they have finished very strongly. Coming into year 1, the 2021 season, year 1 of the Beamer era, most, if not all, of Gamecock Nation wanted to label the week 4 matchup against the Kentucky Wildcats as the most important game of the season. Well, you might recall the Gamecocks lost that game 16-10. Did that completely wreck the season? Was the season over after that? South Carolina went to a bowl game, ended up beating North Carolina and finishing 7-6. That year was a success. You look at a season ago, everyone in Gamecock Nation wanted to label that week 2 matchup against Arkansas as the quote-unquote most important game. South Carolina lost that game 44-30. Ended up finishing with 8 regular season wins and going to the Gator Bowl. Despite losing that game, that season was a success. Hell, I even labeled last year's Missouri as the most important game. Gamecocks lose that football game. I went as far as to say South Carolina would not have a successful season if they didn't beat the Tigers at Willie B. I was proven wrong. Gamecocks beat Tennessee and Clem Sucks down the stretch. That was a successful season. So I say all that to say as well that it's not an exact science, right? And this is just part of talking season. And you could convince me, you could give me a very compelling argument, because I don't think there's one obvious choice of what is the most important game of the 2023 season. There's a couple of different games you could pick for a couple of different reasons. And I understand people look at the schedule and they say, you got to capitalize on the momentum you had from a season ago. You got Spencer Rattler back. You got Juice Wells back. You got to come out of the gate firing and take down North Carolina. If you can't beat the 4th or 5th best team in the ACC, how in the world are you going to have a successful season? But again, I say look at Shane Beamer's program and look at his first 2 teams. They got better as the season progressed. And I think it's a bit unfair, because what will happen is this. If the Gamecocks, let's just say hypothetically, and you could really speak on both sides, because this is a huge game for both of these teams, South Carolina and North Carolina. The loser of that game will unfairly, in my opinion, get written off for practically the entire year. This is a game that if you lose, like you're not, it defines you. We've seen Carolina firsthand improve dramatically from game 1 to game 13. And I think that's a characteristic of a well-coached football team as well. You get better as the season progresses. You learn more about yourself. You become more acclimated to what you're doing, the systems that are in place. I'm not even saying that as a negative. I think it's a positive, because people remember how you finish, not how you start. They remember November, as is the saying in college football, but it's true. Now, when I look at that North Carolina game week 1, there's a lot of people, fairly, unfairly, what have you, there's a lot of people who believe this season cannot be a success unless there's a continued ascension of the program, and I'm talking specifically in the win total. And as you and I both know, it's not always that simple. It's not always that easy. If Carolina lands back at 8 wins, did they not make strides in progress from a season ago? You and I both know that's not true. And I do agree with what Mark Ryan and others have said about this season. 9-3, second in the East is the goal. 8-4, second or third in the East. That is the expectation to match last year's record. 7-5, it wouldn't be a failure, but it'd be disappointing, right? It'd be disappointing. 6-6 or worse would be a failure. I see North Carolina, and there's no guarantees, guys. Whether you win your first game, lose your first game, I just think it's unfair to label that the most important game and to say, well, if we don't win this game, the season's a wash. That's how people labeled Arkansas last year for reasons unbeknownst to me. I didn't really understand it at that point. I preached all year last year, hey, don't label that Arkansas game as the most important, a must win. You got to go to Fayetteville against a team that the matchup is horrific, and it played itself out that way on the field. I look at that UNC game a lot like I looked at that Arkansas game last year. It's a swing game. To me, it's the biggest swing game of the season. Because you look at South Carolina's 2023 schedule, and not to harp on the schedule, but you have to talk about it when you talk about the Gamecocks. North Carolina in Charlotte, Furman week 2, that's a gimme, that's a dub. But then at Georgia, Mississippi State at home, and at Tennessee. That all coming before your bye week. Beat North Carolina, and you can come out of those first 5, 3-2, which I think would be a massive success. I think that'd be a massive success. Lose to UNC, starts getting a little bit dicey. 2-3, I think, is probably, dare I say, best case, and you could realistically start 1-4. Realistically could start 1-4. And at that point, you'll go into your bye week. Like, what would the mood of this fan base be? We talked about this last year, right? We talked about this last year because it was a rough start, rough going halfway through. And you're able to salvage it down the stretch. And the end of this schedule sets up very well yet again. Jacksonville State at home, Vandy at home, Kentucky at home, and the arch rival at home. You can really go on a run in November. So I see UNC. If you're going to get to 8 wins, get to 9 wins, or God forbid more, UNC's a must-have. UNC's a must-have. But I don't think, hell, I'll say this. If you lose to North Carolina, I don't think that guarantees you don't win 8 games. Because I think this team is going to be so much better down the stretch. They're going to be so much better by the 6th game than they are the first game. I mean, think about it, guys. Yes, you have Spencer Rattler back. Yes, you have Juice Wells. But you're going to have a brand new dynamic at running back. Got to replace 3 of 5 starters up front. Oh, by the way, you got a new offensive coordinator, a brand new offensive system. Got to replace your top 2 corners. You lose Birch and Edmond off the edge. Got to replace them. I mean, you got holes you got to fill. And so I don't think it's fair to think that maybe out the gate, it won't be clicking right away. And so while UNC would be a big game, it'd be a huge victory. It would. Beating North Carolina would set the stage for another very special season. But I don't think losing to the Tar Heels guarantees that that will not happen. I think it'd be very unfair to write off South Carolina just because they lost week 1 against UNC. Very important game. Don't get it twisted. I'm not sitting here saying that, oh, the game doesn't matter, no big deal. It's an important game. But similar to last year, I just felt like people hinged their entire hopes on the Arkansas game. And it was weird. Like, after losing to Arkansas, it's almost like it took people a couple of weeks to, like, get back on the wagon, to get excited again, which was just strange to me. Like, it took people it took the Kentucky win, it took the A&M win for people to be like, okay, this season's, we still got something cooking here, which is a weird thing to me. So don't put all your eggs in the UNC basket. Very important game for sure. But I keep seeing everyone labeling that. It's the most important game of the year. To me, labeling game 1, week 1, as the most important game, I think that's a little bit over-aggressive. And I'm excited to share with you all here very soon in early July what I do think is the most important game of the 2023 football season. Guys, that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the break. On the side, we'll keep the conversation going with a really fun topic. My top places, ranking the best places to tailgate before a USC football game. This should be a lot of fun. Guys, all that and much more on the other side of the break. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Muscle Dougie, ho. Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back Friday, May the 19th, 2023. Again, thank you all so much for tuning in, your love and support. We've had a fantastic week. First week of TDC noon to 3. And of course, the first week with the way that we are producing and distributing the podcast. And I would say, guys, it has been a massive success. So thank you all so much. I truly appreciate it, guys. In case you missed it, by the way, just a quick update. No doubleheader today, which is unfortunate. I was looking forward to watching baseball at 3 o'clock, but no doubleheader today due to field conditions. There will be a game tonight at 7 o'clock. Doubleheader will now be tomorrow, starting at 2 7-inning games. I know this is a bit of a side note, but I would say that actually helps South Carolina when you talk about pitching depth and kind of how you structure your bullpen and, or how, your pitching strategy. I think that actually helps South Carolina, if anything. So anyways, though, game 1 tonight at 7, games 2 and 3 in a doubleheader tomorrow at 2 o'clock, 2 7-inning games. That is when it will get going. Other than that, guys, I thought we had something else. One other thing, I don't know, I already forgot it. There was a picture posted online of the field conditions, and yeah, it is absolutely drenched in the outfield. So absolutely drenched. Either way, guys, hey, let's keep the convo going. And a fun topic here on this Friday. And as I mentioned, guys, it's a bit of talking season, right? So the conversation could get a bit random over the upcoming months as we really embark and enter into the quote-unquote off-season, especially as the baseball season winds down. I thought it'd be fun to talk about ranking the best places, in my opinion, to tailgate before a USC football game. Now, I know this will be highly debated, and this really does depend on, this is a person by person, type of deal. Like everybody's going to have different answers for this because of where you grew up, where you tailgated, where your most fond memories are, if you will. But I'm going to rank my top 5 of where are the best places to tailgate before a South Carolina football game. And guys, I will say this before I dive into this list. There's really not a bad spot. I mean, South Carolina, I think we can all agree, has some of the best tailgating in the Southeastern Conference, right? Some of the best tailgating you'll find in college football, especially when you factor in the upgrades around the stadium. Maybe early 2000s, we would have felt a little bit differently. But because of the upgrades, it's absolutely beautiful. They've done a great job turning Williams-Brice Stadium and the surrounding areas into a beautiful facility and one of the best tailgating experiences in the SEC. So without further ado, guys, I'm going to give you my top 5 best places to tailgate before a South Carolina football game. And at number 5, and admittedly, number 5 and number 4, I went a bit bougie with these answers, right? Because when you think of tailgating, you think of getting out to the parking spot and setting up the tent and firing up the grill and being out in the sun and what have you. At number 5, this is about as bougie as you can get. And not everyone, I'm sure, has had this experience. And if you have not, I highly suggest you do so, which is much easier said than done because you probably need to know somebody or know somebody that knows somebody. But if you can get out there, if you can get into one of these, you most certainly should. At number 5 on my list, Cockaboose Railroad. And the Cockabooses, which I would say, guys, I think is such an underrated tradition. Right? One of the most underrated traditions in the SEC in regards to tailgating and such a cool part of game day. We've all seen Cockaboose Railroad. And as I mentioned, guys, this is a much bougier way to tailgate. I think if you want to buy one, it'll run you a cool like 250 or 300 grand. You also can't stay the night in one of them, and it is very close quarters. However, because of the overall experience, being inside, watching the games, you've got your wine, you've got your beer, you've got your liquor, you've got your food, everything you need. And it's also, too, if you're trying to have, a private, closed-off, intimate type of tailgate with people your friends, your family, your coworkers, your acquaintances, whatever, right? It's a really, really cool way to tailgate. And so I've had the pleasure of going into a couple of different Cockabooses, and it's always a lot of fun. So number 5 for me would be Cockaboose Railroad. Keeping that same energy going into number 4, and this is from personal experience, by the way. One of my best friends actually lived at this area, and I had another friend who lived in this other building. At number 4 for me, my fourth best place to tailgate before a South Carolina football game, and you can't get much closer to the stadium than this, either the Stadium Village Lofts or Carolina Walk. Really, any of those condos surrounding Williams-Brice Stadium, ton of fun. Again, I had a best friend who lived at the Lofts, had a buddy of mine who lived at Carolina Walk. I have tailgated and experienced both. And it's a great time and it's a great scene. But again, it's a much different tailgating experience because my experiences tailgating at those locations before games, man, we were sitting back chilling, watching college football on the big screen. Right, this is even before I was doing TSUS, even before that was ever a thing. I'd be at my buddy's place again, watching football on the TV. We had food catered and, people coming over and all that. If we wanted to go up on the roof and see Williams-Brice Stadium, we could do that. But it was a much different tailgating experience than being out in the parking lot, being out in Gamecock Park, which, again, we'll get into, of course, in just a second. But much different experience, but a very fun experience. And so if you ever run across someone, if you got a buddy, you got family member or whoever, you just meet somebody who invites you, I highly suggest to go. I highly suggest going to the tailgate because while it may not be your traditional tailgate, it is a lot of fun, guys. It is a lot of fun to kick back, especially early in the season when it's 110 degrees, when it's 100 degrees outside, that Carolina heat in early September, and you're able to go inside in the cool AC and sit there and chill and watch football and eat food and drink and be merry. You get used to it. You get kind of spoiled, to be honest with you. And I did for a little bit. But Stadium Village Lofts, Carolina Walk, any of the condominiums surrounding Williams-Brice, highly suggest. Number 3 on my list of best places to tailgate before a South Carolina football game. Now, we are moving off of the bougie type of tailgating to your more traditional, right? This is where your diehards are tailgating, right? Your season ticket holders, those who truly, and I'm not saying you don't bleed the garnet and black if you're tailgating in a bougie manner, but you know what I mean, right? Like, this is where the craziness is going down. At number 3 for me, I am going with Old Reliable, the fairgrounds. The fairgrounds where so many of you probably do your tailgating. It's just a classic spot, man. You got the smell of barbecue or whatever's on the grill in the air. Gamecock fans out and about. You're out there hanging out with 80,000 of your closest friends, right? If you're wearing the garnet and black on game day, you're practically best friends with everyone, although I would say some of the slapdickery on social media maybe has changed that for some of you. Certainly it's changed it for me, but probably most of you don't feel that. Either way, though, that's beside the point. You got 80,000 of your closest friends out at the tailgate, man. You got the grills going. You got the coolers out. You get out there, set up your tent, all that good stuff, man. It's a blast. The only drawback of the fairgrounds, I would say, if you're on that concrete, man, it is hot. Man, it is brutal. And I will say this, while my top 3 may not be the bougie type of tailgating that I mentioned previously, dude, tailgating's an art form, right? It's a straight up art form. People out there bringing generators and they're bringing their TVs and having the full on setup. You got the tents going, grills going, everything. There's some folks out there, and you know who you are, by the way, that have mastered the art of tailgating. The fairgrounds, an incredible spot, man. You're right there. You got a great view of Willie B, right? You got the scoreboard with South Carolina Gamecocks shining off in the distance. It's an incredible spot, man. A great place to tailgate. And I would say like the OG of tailgating at South Carolina, right? Because even before all these renovations and everything, that is where. And hey, once a year, I will say a drawback. It's a cool thing if you're not in there, but a drawback once a year, you lose your spot to the fair. That's not a fun part of it. But I will say it's cool that that's a really cool tailgating experience also, like having the fair in town, but losing your spot obviously would suck. So number 3 for me is the fairgrounds. Number 2, and this one might surprise you that it's not number 1, but number 2 for me is Seawells, where we have been the last 2 years. And guys, I say Seawells and then really any parking area that is not directly affiliated or controlled or owned by the University of South Carolina. Because here's your biggest advantage, right? Seawells, you're a little bit farther away from the action, a little bit farther of a walk, right? But to give Seawells specifically a lot of credit, love those guys. You got your indoor bathrooms, fantastic bathrooms, right? An AC, and they're very clean and nice. But what separates Seawells and all these lots not owned by South Carolina apart, there is no 5-hour rule. There is no 6-hour rule. If Carolina plays at 7 that night and you want to get out there at 10 a.m., by God, you can do it, and we've done it before, right? You all know what I'm talking about. The fairgrounds, Gamecock Park, there's a 5-hour rule. If the game's at 7, you got to be out there at 2. Sometimes it's 3. And it's like, at that point, it's like, dude, we've lost half the day. Seawells, you get out there, you set up, put up the tent, food, all that good stuff, get the TVs going. Hey, if it's a night game, which we've had a lot of at Willie B lately, you can set that TV up. Hey, we're out there by noon, man. We got college game day on the 2. Then we got the noon game. Then we got the 3:30 game. And then it leads us into the night game, right? So Seawells number 2. You could argue it should be number 1. But I'm going to go with number 2, right? And also, too, by the way, and I see my guy John Rice, which shout out to John Rice. He does a great job. Like I mentioned, there's folks out there who have mastered the art of tailgating. John Rice and his crew, they're one of them. I feel like in the lots like Seawells, the non-USC-owned lots and the lots where you can get out there earlier, that's where like the craziness is taking place. That's like where the partying is going on. That's where the flip cup is, beer pong, Jello shots. I mean, you name it, man. Craziness. If you're trying to get turned up for game day, place like Seawells, that's your place to go. Number 1 on my list, best places to tailgate for a USC football game. And, you know, I'm ranking it number 1, although I can list the number of times I've tailgated here literally on one hand. I never park here for some reason. I don't always venture my way over here. But I think you just got to pay respects. At number 1 on my list, best places to tailgate before a USC football game, you got to give it to Gamecock Park, man. And if nothing else, because of the proximity, the quality, like the work they've done to that area, Gamecock Park is beautiful. You've got the view of Willie B on one side, and you got the indoor facility on the other. Gamecock Park is really hard to beat. I know that you don't get the luxury of getting there 12 hours before kickoff like you do in a Seawells, but you got a full grass lot. I mean, it's just beautiful, man. I don't know that there's a more beautiful landscape for tailgating around Willie B, the convenience of being right next to the stadium. I got to go with Gamecock Park. It's close. I want to put Seawells number 1. I really do. I want to put Seawells number 1. But I got to give it to Gamecock Park. Here. So, to go back through my top 5 best places to tailgate for a USC football game. Number 5, Cockaboose Railroad. Number 4, the Stadium Village Lofts, Carolina Walker, any of the condominiums around the stadium. Number 3, the Fairgrounds. Number 2, Seawells. And number 1, Gamecock Park. What are your thoughts? How would you rank them? And where do you tailgate? What's your favorite tailgate spot outside of Williams-Brice Stadium? Guys, with that being said, again, thank you all so much for tuning in. I love seeing all the comments rolling in. We're going to jump into another quick break. On the other side, we are going to get into our interview with Pete Futak of collegefootballnews.com. So you can look forward to that. Really, really great stuff as we talk with Pete about his 2023 breakdown, prediction, top players, win total, his full preview of the Gamecocks heading into 2023 football season. Guys, we got all that and more on the other side. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Muscle Dougie, ho. Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back. Appreciate you all tuning in here on this Friday, May the 19th, 2023. As I mentioned before, Pete Futak of collegefootballnews.com. We actually spoke a couple of days ago, but we got that conversation for you right here, right now. So again, guys, sit back and enjoy as we talk his full 2023 South Carolina preview, which you can find, by the way, over at collegefootballnews.com. Here it is, our conversation with Pete Futak of collegefootballnews.com. All right, guys, joining us on the Spurs Up Show. Very excited. Pete Futak of collegefootballnews.com. The best in the business. And as I told you off air, Pete, I have been a huge fan of yours and an avid consumer of collegefootballnews.com for what feels like forever. Love you guys' work and truly appreciate you taking the time, my friend.
Absolutely. It's good. As I said off, thank you so much for the kind words. It is kind of crazy now because it's been 25 years. It's been, it's not a real job. It's ridiculous. I get to, write about and talk about college football all the time. And it's absolutely a blast. And this is the fun stuff. And what are we doing for a living? We're not fighting a war here. We're talking college football. So it's all beautiful. It's all fun. Thank you so much.
And maybe the highlight, Pete, of the conversation, as again, I mentioned off air, the very first thing that came up, that Guy Fieri flag behind you. There's got to be a story behind that of some sort.
Yeah. Okay. Real quick. So I don't bore anybody. So I have sports on all the time. If you see I have like 4 screens of stuff. So I live in a house of all women and I always have sports on and they don't care about sports at all. But if I'm writing all the time, so I really don't know, anything about TV shows or binging. Like, yeah, I'll know the main stuff and everything, but I can't write and watch a TV show at the same time. It just doesn't work. So I need like mindless TV. So I am not ashamed to admit that I am way too into like Love It or List It. Just the banter in the background or some of those, the Property Brothers, and then Guy. Because all the triple guys grocery games or diners, drive-ins, and dives, it's the type of thing you can have on in the background and keep working. So since he's on all the time, So daughter got him for me for a Christmas present, and he's been the backdrop ever since. Because here in Chicago, it's saying it's snowing again, so we don't have the right backdrop I normally have. So this is what you get today.
And I think literally yesterday in South Carolina, it was like 90 degrees.
I can't. I love it. I love all of it. I'm so there. I'm so ready for anything other than this. But yeah.
Snow in May is something in my mind.
It didn't really snow, but it feels like it. Yeah.
Yeah. I cannot comprehend. Well, Pete, let's get into it, man. Obviously, you guys dropped your South Carolina college football preview for the 2023 season, and I'm sure you guys will have even more content over at collegefootballnews.com dropping as we get closer and closer to the season. And I know, Pete, just side note, this has got to be a really busy time of year for you, right? Because you're putting out previews on everybody.
I have to know this stuff. So it's weird because it's the only way I can describe it. It's like for all the college kids, it's like finals right now. It is. I have essentially 133 book reports to do and research projects to do. And so all the stuff on the off season who I talk to and all the stuff we gather now, just got information overload here. And now it's just a question of putting together. And then the crazier part now is once you put it all together, it all goes kablooey because then Tyler Buckner transfers to Alabama. So it's God bless anybody, who I know, it's old school to think that, people cared about print magazines, but God bless anybody who's trying to do those now. Because God, when I used to write those things in 1997, it was a bear. And now forget it, because the second you put something out there, 5 guys transfer and everything changes. So, but this is where you learn the stuff. I mean, especially for the investment and gambling world, and when you make predictions and stuff, this is where you kind of have to know the difference between a South Carolina and a Coastal Carolina and Utah State and how it all sort of, fits together. So, again, not breaking rocks here. There's no crying when it comes to me with this job ever. So, but this is it's a sprint. The faster I get through these, the faster summer begins.
Pete, getting into it, one of the things I love about your work and the work over at collegefootballnews.com is you guys use so many statistics and trends to back up what you're talking about. I feel like I'm always picking up nuggets from your work on a week in, week out basis. So I really appreciate you guys doing that. But Just talking about the 2022 season, we all knew it was special. But again, you using the statistics used a very unique way to put it in perspective. South Carolina has won 8 or more games just 15 times in 115 years of Gamecocks football. Alabama's done it 67 times, Tennessee 58, Georgia 50, Florida 41, and dare I even read this sentence because I think it's going to hurt my pride a little bit. Vanderbilt has done it 18 times. So when you talk about what Shane Beamer did in year 2 and you look at the season as a whole, was it a roller coaster? Absolutely. Was it up and down? For sure. I mean, was it abysmal and ugly? Yeah, that too. But the way they closed out the season, ending the playoff dreams of Tennessee and Clemson, and again, getting to that 8-win mark, and you think about just the perspective of what South Carolina has done or has not done in their history as a program, I think it'll really give you a great appreciation for what Shane Beamer was able to accomplish in year 2.
Yeah, not just to kiss up to the host and the crowd. Like you always get the question doing all this where it's like, who has the best fans? First of all fans are annoying, so it doesn't matter who they are. Right? Guys, I got hammered by Wake Forest fans last year by underestimating. I'm like, God love it. Keep it coming. This is great, but you're Wake Forest. So offense, but who are the best fans? Like it's easy to, if you went to the school, that's another thing. But I love Ohio State football or Michigan. So to be a South Carolina fan and to fill that stadium as often as it has, you guys have had some crazy streak for a while there, and you always fill the house with just totally mediocre football over 115 years. I mean, that's fans. And that's like you're just in there. It's almost like an English Premier League where you're not beating Manchester City or Arsenal this year, but you're gonna, you're happy. You're finishing in the top 10, that kind of thing. And to have just 15 years of 8 wins or more, and just to, like you said, it puts it in perspective that last year's fun. That's the hardest part. Like I literally was on a show yesterday with my guy Ryan Fowler on Tuscaloosa, and it's like a funeral down there. They can tell you, how many minutes it's been since they've won a national championship. And, if Noah Ruggles of Ohio State kicks that football straight, Georgia doesn't win the playoff semifinal, and Ohio State wins a national championship, and Georgia's complaining right now, like, oh my gosh, it stinks to be an SEC fan. It's just so hard because there's no fun. It's unless you can win 10 games and it means nothing. I mean, you might as well win 4. It just, okay, so you go to a bowl game and all your guys opt out anyway. It doesn't matter. But if you're a South Carolina and you're just not used to success, it's more fun. I mean, how fun is it that, who cares that, who won the SEC championship last year? LSU got there. Georgia won, whatever. You guys beat Clemson. You crushed their spirit. I mean, that's everything. I mean, you just completely stomped on them and ruined their lives. I mean, forgetting the fact you guys actually saved them because they would have gotten just absolutely obliterated as soon as they got to the college football playoff. But you did that. All right, you got by them. You ruined Tennessee's fun. I mean, just that, and the fun of having an offense like that, the fun that, again, with the stats, the crazy part about this is if Shane Beamer, I think if he has another 7-win season, that's the greatest 3-year start in South Carolina football history. I mean, Spurrier didn't get it kicked in for, a couple of years. And so you can kind of see the ascension and say, look, we're not just competitive here. We can actually beat some of these teams, and it's a whole lot of fun. And it probably should continue this year with another wildly wacky, inconsistent year that's going to have all sorts of twists and turns. And all right, you're not going to win the SEC championship, but it's going to be a blast, by the way.
And Pete, you're preaching to the choir because I remember saying it on a week in, week out basis last year that, listen, it's guaranteed we're going to be miserable in the defeats. Don't also be miserable in the victories and nitpick every win to death. Just enjoy the wins where you can get them. Because you never know how many you're going to get. You might get 10. You might only get 6. But enjoy those 6 when you have them. Be great.
And there is a difference in that, because I do understand once you get to the true elite stratosphere, once you are a Georgia or an Alabama or an Ohio State, where look, your life sucks if you go 10-2. I mean, it's just you feel bad. Everything's way. I mean, ask an Ohio fan. I'm up here in Chicago. Find an Ohio State fan there, and they have the biggest mope on their face because they've lost to Michigan for the last 2 years and have to hear it from that base. I mean, but if you are one of those programs, I do get it, where there is something about the process, the Nick Saban process, where the fine line between, okay, you won 55-3, but you also committed 12 penalties. Well, that's going to come back to bite you later. So that way is different. For South Carolina, yeah, if you just got by, Tennessee or whoever, and you won, boom, that's awesome.
Pete, let's dive into this preview, the preview you guys released on collegefootballnews.com, or continue to dive into it, if you will, as we move and talk about this 2023 team and the way the Gamecocks set up. And you look, the big news obviously coming in January, Spencer Rattler and Juice Wells, the return. And like I mentioned, Pete, I love the way that you guys use statistics and analysis to break down all of your opinions and everything else. Juice Wells, just how big of a target is he? He caught 20 passes against Tennessee and Clemson. Safe to say he's going to be South Carolina's #1 target and Spencer Rattler's favorite target all throughout the season. And when you look at the offensive line, you look at the running game, the lack of options there, at least right now, they may pick up someone in the portal. But I think it's safe to say this is a football team that's probably going to rely on the passing game, and it's going to start with Spencer Rattler to Juice Wells.
And it's going to be fun to see where Rattler progresses, because it gets lost that these guys are so they come in so ready, as opposed to like 15-20 years ago. They've been coached up, they know everything, but they're still kids, they're still college kids who still mature. And sometimes, we're all used to like the freshman superstar who takes the world by storm, but sometimes it takes a little while for everything to slow down. And if you ever, there's a reason why Joe Burrow went from being, no one knows who he is, to this all-time great, where, he was, 27 years old or whatever, he's an old dude when he finished up at LSU, and just everything slowed down. Kenny Pickett went from nothing to 40-something touchdown season. And same thing, old quarterback. It just, everything changes with more time logged into the system. And so for a guy like Rattler, think of where this all started from. He was the first Lincoln Riley homegrown quarterback, and he had to follow transfers. He had to follow Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, and then he got a little time, and then Caleb Williams, took over for him. So you're talking about 3 Heisman winners, a guy who probably should have been the NFL MVP, 2 -- 1 overall draft picks, another guy who probably will be. And they were brought in. Actually, Caleb Williams wasn't, but he was groomed up a little bit. The other guys were brought in as transfers, and Rattler he had to start from scratch and was expected to be that, and he just wasn't. Where these other guys had a little time to kind of get their bearings and get everything figured out. So now is where he's really coming into that time frame where he would be, like, if he were to transfer in, he would be the big time transfer. That arm, though, beats all those other guys. He's got the NFL arm. He's got the tools. He's got the passing ability. As you saw, obviously, at the end of last year, once he got into a groove and once he got into a positive momentum, he was amazing. Now, does he trust that arm, and does he almost throw? Like, no one in college football almost throws more picks. It seems like every other time, it's like you always look at a South Carolina game and say, "What? Rattler could have had 14 interceptions in that game," but he's got the arm to make it happen. And now, again, as things slow down for him and he reads things better, of course he's going to go to Wells first and foremost, because he's going to be the main guy. Getting Trey Knox in from Arkansas, tight end, is going to be a big deal. And then just spread it around enough, and that's where the experience is going to come in.
Pete, what I think is interesting, you refer to the line of scrimmage a lot. Pass protection, tackles for loss, the running game going missing, and on the defensive side, the running defense or lack thereof, 198 yards per game you allowed. And you just echo, really, and I think you solidify what I've been saying forever. Gamecock fans scoff at, why is the over-under win total 6? Why is it 7? Why are people, quote-unquote, sleeping on the Gamecocks? I think, Pete, for South Carolina, and you see it in recruiting, and I think it's why they are recruiting the way they are, for this program to take the next step and sort of get to the next level, it's all about improving at the line of scrimmage. We love to talk about these skill position guys, the Juice Wells of the world, the Nick Eamon-Warries in the back end. But this is still a game, and it's still a conference where if you don't have those big uglies up front, both offensively and defensively, you're just going to get pushed around. And I think that's where you're going to see the inconsistencies. And again, you talk about that in your preview.
I remember we were grading on a curve here, and you kind of allude to that where, yeah, the line stunk last year. But again, you're playing in the SEC. And why is the SEC and the Big Ten, why are they the big bad boy conferences? Well, we just did this. 45% of the NFL draft was made up of SEC and Big Ten players. And the biggest difference between the SEC and everyone else are the defensive tackles. I mean, it's everyone can find, you can always find a quarterback. You can always find a guy to carry the ball. Maybe you might find, a middle linebacker who just takes over games. But it is so hard to consistently find 290-pound guys who can move and are as strong as the SEC defensive tackles are. And same thing for the offensive line. It's not just about the tackles anymore. It's finding a full 5 guys that can come together. So it's not that South Carolina lines are necessarily awful. They're statistically bad. But like you said, you're going up against SEC talent every single week, and everybody has defensive tackles. Even South Carolina does. Everyone has the linemen. And so there's a difference between getting to go up against Conference USA lines and getting to go up against, Arkansas or Florida, or even when the teams kind of stink or aren't as great as normal, they still have guys in the trenches who can hang around. So that's where it kind of has to come together, and just understand that, all right, you don't have the Georgia lines. So how do you get over that? And you hopefully get over that with this year, a guy like Rattler, who in this year in the SEC, who's the better quarterback? Who's the Jalen Daniels of LSU? Okay, someone else is going to rise up and be a number 1 overall draft pick. Alabama doesn't have that this year. They don't. At Georgia, we'll see what happens when that all shakes out. But they're going to be more talented there. But they don't necessarily have it. All right, do we buy into Joe Milton being the next Hendon Hooker? All right, statistically maybe. So the thing is, if you're South Carolina, where you're kind of looking at the season, how do we get past the fact that we don't have the high end lines of the Georgias and Alabamas of the world? Well, you might have the best quarterback in the league, at least coming into the season, and on the other side of the ball, and to get ahead of the things here, is just keep winning the turnover margin. And that's what really sort of saves you. That saves a lot of teams out there. If you can keep taking the ball away, you're going to be all right.
And Pete, you bring me into my next point, which is the turnover margin. And you highlight this is the key to the season. I'm going to read this excerpt because I think it's really important and it's fascinating. You say the defense didn't really work. The offense was all over the place, and no one in the SEC gave up the ball more. The 27 turnovers mattered until they didn't. The 23 takeaways made for a whole bunch of mistakes. Once again, they're going to be rocky moments. Plenty of parts of the puzzle need help, but to keep it simple, the Gamecocks were 1-4 last season when they lost the turnover battle, and 7-1 when they didn't. Shane Beamer has talked about this a lot, Pete. Spencer Rattler being better about not turning the football over, but really this team as a whole. And it's crazy, Pete, when you look back at last year and you mention those numbers yet again. Let me read it. Gamecocks 1-4 when they lost the turnover battle, 7-1 when they didn't. Pete, South Carolina went 8-5, 8-4 in the regular season. 3 of their 4 losses were to teams that went 6-6.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you think about that. You think about the turnover margin. And let me give you my insight, Peter. Let me just give you my take on that. It's one of those things where there's 2 different ways I look at it. Number one is this is just a football team that's really opportunistic, and that's who they're going to be. The other side I kind of worry is some of it was maybe getting to 8 wins a little bit smoke and mirrors. Can you really depend on the turnover margin to be that in your favor on a year in, year out basis, right? So how do you look at that? And obviously for South Carolina, when you talk about controlling what you can control, cutting down on the turnovers is something they have to do this year if they're going to repeat their success from last year.
Yeah, there's a little bit of the no risk it, no biscuit aspect to this thing too, where if you've got a quarterback like Rattler, who is a gunslinger, you're going to have to accept that, all right, there are going to be times when he throws 3 picks. It's just going to have to be part of the equation. But there are other times when he doesn't, and those passes go big and he's in a groove, and you're going to have it when South Carolina just becomes unstoppable. So there is a little bit of win the turnover margin, teams win aspect to it. But it just, when the margin for error is lesser, it just, for a team like South Carolina, winning the turnover battle, limiting the penalties, doing all the other things the right way. And to your point of, can you do this year in and year out? This is just another preview we just put up there a little while ago from Middle Tennessee. Middle Tennessee. They start off the season against Alabama, and as I told Fowler yesterday, if Alabama doesn't come up with 28 sacks in that game, they're not doing their job, because you're talking about having no lines. But how do they get to 8 wins? They were number 2 in the nation in takeaways, and they've been that way for the last 3 years. So there is a way to coach it where that's kind of your defensive philosophy. Yeah, we're going to get gouged. We're going to have moments where we're just going to get flattened by that running game or whatever the hot passer is going to be. But we know that if we can just be good enough on a couple of third down stops, and we know that if we can just come up with 2 or 3 takeaways, that might be enough to kind of offset all the other problems. And that is something that you can coach. So you mentioned Beamer. So if you can combine winning the turnover margin with a hot quarterback, with Beamer, pedigree special teams, which are among the best in the nation, and just the little things like that. Like I went to Wisconsin. I was there before they won anything. And what did they do for about 20 years under Alvarez to get good? They always won the turnover margin. They always won time of possession battle. They always won the penalties. The little things offset the talent. So if you're South Carolina, that's one of them: special teams, penalties, turnover margin. You win those 3 battles, and you're going to win a lot of games.
And Pete, it's not the sexiest thing to talk about, obviously, because everybody wants to break down offense, defense, what these teams look like. But when it comes to South Carolina, you have to factor in special teams. I mean, you absolutely factor in Beamer ball, because you look at last year and Beamer ball it helped in a lot of those games they won. And you talk about the turnover margin. I mean, it helped South Carolina immensely, especially down the stretch. When you're predicting the Gamecocks on a week in, week out basis, or sitting right now, when you're looking at this football team coming to the fall, how much do you have to factor in Beamer ball and the intangibles when it comes to Carolina? And I guess how tough does it, or how much tougher does it make it to read South Carolina? Because that's one of those things that, it's really, really tough to measure, if you will.
Well, the crazy part about it, too, is it's not like y'all played a bunch of close games that came down to a field goal. Like you said, I mean, you got rolled by Florida. You got, you lost by double digits, I believe, to Missouri. And there's some other kind of a few head scratchers in there. And on the flip side, then you just rolled some of these other teams where it didn't come down and matter that your field goal kicker went 11 for 11. But certainly it's one of those things where it's so important. I'm always shocked that, especially in an NIL area, and you're seeing it now too, where kickers have become a very pricey item in the transfer portal. But it's so hard to do good special teams in college. It's hard at the NFL level, where you don't have quite enough time to operate and work on like you like. And then you got pro guys who are trying to keep their jobs, who are going to stay in their lanes and kill themselves just to try to keep their gigs. So special teams at the NFL is one thing. At the college level, it gets totally ignored. And you can either go one way, which is really risky, where put some of your star players on special teams and have that athlete advantage. And, as Alabama's been criticized over the year for that, if you lose a Jalen Waddle or you lose a main guy to injury, well, on special teams, that's a lot of criticism as well. So just to have that advantage where you don't have to worry about that third phase week in and week out, you're going into that knowing that other coach is going to have, other coaching staff is going to have to prep up that they're probably going to lose the special teams battle, and they're going to have to overcome that.
Pete, let's get into your key game of the season. Again, Pete Futak, collegefootballnews.com. Highly suggest you guys check him out. Pete, you guys are COL Football News on Twitter, by the way. That
sucks. It's a sucky name, but yeah, we couldn't get College Football News. It's too big. And finally we got it, and all of a sudden Herb Street tweeted us out, and then we're like, oh crap, now we're stuck with this name.
Hey, just search College Football News on Twitter and you'll see it. But you list the North Carolina game in Charlotte, the season opener, as the key game, and it's obvious based off of your excerpt here. It's because of the gauntlet that is the beginning of the Gamecock schedule, road trips to Georgia and Tennessee. You also sandwich in a really, really tricky game against Mississippi State. I think that one, you see people labeling that as the trap game for South Carolina for good reason, because they've still got Will Rogers. I know the late, great Mike Leach obviously passing on. I think that's put a lot of people nobody knows what to think of Mississippi State right now. And that game's at Williams-Brice. But it's obvious, again, you talk about this North Carolina game because of the gauntlet of a start. That is one you absolutely have to have, or you run the risk of really your season kind of bottoming out before it ever has a chance to get going. Just talk about, again, that UNC game and why you label it the key game of the year.
Well, and again, I can't remember exactly what I wrote. I did in a fog half of it. I finished it up last night. But I think what's the stat I had in there? It's like 2017 is when the last time that their first game of the year
over a
against
Power 5 program. Yeah.
Again, yeah, it wasn't always the first game of the season. It might have been the second game or something. But yeah, it's not always a given that, you want to ease your way into a season. And most of these teams now, you're kind of crazy if you don't have at least one layup on there. And I always kind of say when it comes to the non-conference schedule, have one other Power 5 game on there. That's all that matters. Everything else, you're just play a bunch of cupcakes, build up the wins. You're crazy not to. But this is their one. So if they win this against North Carolina, then all of a sudden, okay, you look at the back half of the schedule, all the November games are at home. So you can kind of see, even with Clemson on there, you see light at the end of the tunnel, where if you could just get through the first 2 months, at the very end, you're going to have a Jacksonville State, you're going to have Vanderbilt, you're going to have Kentucky. You're winning at least 2 of those 3, if not all 3, and then Clemson, where, especially at home at this point, all bets are off when it comes to that rivalry game at this point. So you got to win that, because like you alluded to, it sucks. Could they beat Georgia? Yeah, probably aren't. Could they pull it off at Tennessee? Yeah, but they're going to be underdogs. So you can't assume those games. And then everything else on the rest of the schedule is kind of manageable. You don't get an Alabama to deal with. You're not dealing with LSU. We still don't know what Texas A&M is yet this year. And so with the home games and everything else, if you beat North Carolina to start, you can say, okay, look, we know there are 5 other wins on this schedule. I know it's not the way you want to look at it. You want to look forward. We know we're going to be good enough to get to 6 wins in a bowl game. Everything else is going to be gravy after that. But if you lose that game, and you're having problems with Georgia and Tennessee, and God forbid you lose to Mississippi State, and you're 1-4 going into the off week preparing for Florida, the narrative of the season completely changes at that point.
Pete, finally, before we get you out of here, you set your win total for the 2023 season for the Gamecocks at 7, and your excerpt reads as this: the 2022 version was good enough to beat Tennessee and Clemson, but that came after getting stomped on by Florida. There was little rhyme or reason to the season, but it produced, and it might be the way it is again. So talk about your just overall outlook at this point for the Gamecocks. It sounds like you view them very similarly to last year. And I look at this team compared to last year. I think there are a lot of similarities. I think you and I would actually agree based off your analysis. I think the offense will be a little bit better. The defense will be a little bit worse. Beamer ball will still be there, which should probably still put them in that 7 to 8 win range. Your thoughts?
It's so far, and I'll be shocked if there's another Power 5 team harder to actually pin down. Because like I said, would I be 1,000% shocked if they went into Athens and Rattler went for 440 and pulled that off? No. I mean, that's the kind of, we saw it. We saw it with Clemson. We saw it with Tennessee. This team could absolutely rise up, get hot, and take down number 1 Georgia. They could absolutely go into Tennessee, win 55-52, and, pull that off. And then lose to, Vanderbilt, where they turn it over 8 times, or lose to Florida, or just, it's going to be one of those teams. I just don't see any possible way that this is going to be consistent, but it might go up and down, little stock market action, up and down, but at the very end, you're going to have like 7 wins at the end of the day in a decent bowl game. And so get through the first 2 months. If we'll see with this North Carolina game, we'll see if they can pull an upset over Tennessee or Georgia in one of those 2 games. See if they can take out Mississippi State, take out Florida, own Columbia, win the home games. And if you just get a nice base of wins, again, going into November, you've got at least 2 wins coming, probably 3 in perfect world. You run the slate, but let's say 2 or 3, then all of a sudden it's a pretty good season to be had there. And you just keep everything moving forward. The success builds upon success. It's a fun program, a fun team. And you can see that, yeah, this is one of those programs that maybe transfers are going to want to go to, maybe recruits are going to want to go to, because there's fun to be had there, and you can put up big offensive numbers. And if you do that, players are going to want to play for you.
Pete Futak of collegefootballnews.com. Y'all go check him out, and go check out the South Carolina Gamecocks 2023 preview, breakdown, prediction, top players, win total, everything that you need to know going into the 2023 football season. Pete, I appreciate you taking the time, man. Let's definitely do it again soon as we get closer and into the 2023 season.
Absolutely.
I'll keep up the great work.
And when you guys actually do start to run the table and you're 8-0 and everyone wants to talk to you and everything, and you're the biggest thing in college football, just keep a little me in mind here, and we'll come back on then.
Pete, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
Anytime. You have a good one.
Okay, that was Pete Futak, collegefootballnews.com. Hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. And be sure, again, head over to collegefootballnews.com. Check out all of their previews, all their great work. And that was a really cool conversation. As somebody who's been reading Pete's work for a long time from afar, I've talked about, and you guys have probably heard me talk about collegefootballnews.com a lot on these airwaves and on the show and all that good stuff. And so to get Pete on was a really, really cool thing. Guys, that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the break. On the other side, though, we kick off our Power Hour. We're taking all your questions, your comments, your calls, and more here on a Friday. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Marshall Dougie, ho, Dougie, ho. Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Friday, May the 19th, 2023. Hope you're all doing well. We have now entered our power hour. We are taking your questions, your comments, and your calls as we go into the weekend. Of course, guys, in case you missed it, South Carolina will play one baseball game tonight. No more doubleheader. That game will take place at 7 o'clock tonight. And then tomorrow, there will now be a doubleheader starting at 2 o'clock. 2 7-inning contests to decide the series. So, going to be a very fun weekend on the diamond. But again, in the meantime, we're taking your questions, comments, calls. 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377 here on this Friday, May the 19th. Here we go. Gamecock fanatic. If Vandy gets swept, Carolina can still have a chance to get a bye in the SEC tournament, which would be huge, by the way, Gamecock fanatic. I agree. And if Vandy gets swept, did they lose? They lost to Arkansas last night, right? I think 8-2 was the final in that ball game. Let's go ahead and jump to the phone lines here.
Call from
Robbie Davis, Zaxby's Hall of Famer.
Robbie Davis, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm going to get my 3 questions out of the way, and then I'm going to hang up and listen to your comments because I'm babysitting my nephew right now because my mom is on her way to a job interview. So I'm going to get my 3 questions out of the way and hang up real quick. Question number 1, well, actually, it's just 3 questions in one. Okay. Aside from Spencer Rattler and Juice Wells hopefully having their best seasons at Carolina, what are the 3 things that are very important to the success of the football team this year?
What are 3 things besides Rattler and Wells that are very important to the success of the football team? Number 1, I would say line of scrimmage, offensively and defensively, running the ball, stopping the run. I don't think you can finish outside of the top 100 again in both of those categories and get to 8 wins. So that would be number 1, line of scrimmage. Number 2, I know it's low-hanging fruit. We just talked about it with Pete Futak, but turnover margin. This is a team that has benefited greatly off getting the ball off of people, whether it be special teams, defense, also protecting the football. So line of scrimmage, turnover margin. And my third, very important for this football team to have success, I would say, I don't know. If you're going to eliminate Rattler and Wells, I mean, quarterback play is a big one. But if you're going to say outside of that, I would. I know. Excuse me. Line of scrimmage, turnover margin, and your young players, your true freshmen. I mean, Beamer mentioned it at his Somerville stop on his welcome home tour that they're going to be asking a lot of freshmen to play some very key pivotal roles. And so their development, their maturation, getting them acquainted and, quickly is going to be a key in this season. How quickly those guys become, acclimated to South Carolina football in the SEC and how quickly they can make contributions. I think that's going to go a long way in, your success this year. So again, I'd say line of scrimmage, turnover margin, and your young players, your freshmen.
I absolutely agree with that 1,000%. And of course, and also I think third down stops will be key as well. Whenever we got teams in third and obvious passing downs, we've got to put pressure on that QB and make him uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Every chance we get. But that's all I got. I gotta get off of here. I'll finish watching the rest of the show, and you have a great day, and go Gamecocks, and to hell with Clemson. To hell with them.
To hell with them. Robbie, you're the man. I appreciate the call.
No problem, buddy. You have a good one.
You too. Take care, man. Great stuff from Robbie Davis. Let's jump into the text line real quick. And a good question, by the way, by Robbie. I appreciate that. Hey, it's Matt. Who do you think wide receiver 2 is this year? I want to think it's Leggett, but I want to hear your opinion. Well, Matt, if you go off of the spring game, I think Eddie Lewis looks like he might be the lead candidate for that right now. I mean, he was targeted a great deal. And, I know that I understand it's just a spring game, but I think Eddie Lewis is a guy they seem to really, really like, and I think he'll be targeted a lot this season. Xavier Leggett, certainly. I mean, listen, Xavier Leggett finding more consistency, showed great flashes at the end of the season, but certainly he is a guy that, I think can make a big impact for South Carolina. Again, he showed flashes down the road, but, just need to see more consistency. I think Eddie Lewis right now will be wide receiver 2. How does Nicholas Harbor also factor in? I don't think he's going to be a big contributor till later in the season, but I'd say it's either Eddie Lewis or, I think next in line would probably be Xavier Leggett. So let's see. Anyways, people are telling me the stream is broken. I don't know if it still is, but or somebody said the video was frozen. I have no idea. Looks like we're good now. I don't know. Looks like we're good now. I could be wrong. Is the screen still frozen to people? I don't know. Mine looks totally fine. Here, I'm going to try to refresh this really quick. Okay, y'all tell me if the video is working again. Yeah. Y'all let me know if the video is working again. We should be good. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. 152 here on a, is the video better now? Okay. I don't know what happened. Nothing changed on my end. So I don't know if that was what the issue was there. Either way, yeah, I would say back to the point, Eddie Lewis, wide receiver 2, Xavier Leggett, I think could help you a lot this season, but yeah, we'll see. Let's see. Panic Ritter. He texted in, with tomorrow's game being 2 7-inning games, if we somehow lose both games, we all give Kingston a pass. If we lose, you know me, I won't. Panic Ritter, my advice to you, my friend, will be this. Let them lose first before you burn it down. Let them lose first. Just let them lose first. That's all I'm going to say. Let's see. Brian Dean says, the culture was better under Sparky Woods over Will Muschamp. Bruindation says, Hairboy is mad his son wasn't good enough. Lynn Turner says, I no longer claim or follow Javon Kinlaw. He was fine with the fans when we were packing the stadium and paying a scholarship to watch the team lose. Phil says, Gavin Bennett, the best mullet in county football history on my soul. He had a fantastic mullet, by the way. Lynn Turner, champs, players, and parents' comments only reinforced my opinion that the culture was toxic. Bruin Nation, I talked to a guy yesterday. Personally, Beamer's coming to Florence next week for the Welcome Home Tour, Gamecock Club at the Country Club, and he told me point blank, Beamer is night and day. Chase says, I got Jake Bentley's cleat that he used to kick the locker on my mantle. I love it, Chase. I don't doubt that you have that. Let's see. Lynn Turner. I'm amused by people who think coaches whose job depends on winning games are not playing the guys who give them the best opportunity to win. Yeah, that one is that one's funny. That is funny. Madison Duncan said he is vouching for Seawells because the indoor bathrooms. I hear you. Jeff Gullidge, over under the South Carolina offense will score 3 touchdowns against North Carolina. Jeff, it better be over, because if it's not, you have no shot, in my opinion, to win. Like I think it's a safe bet. You got to score 30 or more to win that game. I really do. I think you got to score 30 or more to beat North Carolina. Yeah. Again, I think that's a safe bet. Let's see. Madison Duncan says Gamecocks are going to be a lot of fun this year. Are going to have a lot of fun, I should say. Chase Floyd said the internet is struggling because Robbie's too close to the microwave. Maston says Beamer has one hell of a coaching job to do. He's here for that reason. The coach will balance this team. Beamer will be successful. I agree with you, my friend. I agree with you. Let's see. Rolling through the comments here. Travis says Eddie Lewis is going to be the Corey Rucker that never was. How about that? Yeah, Corey Rucker, man. What a career for Corey Rucker. Just came and went, right? Just came and went. Brendan says to Panic Ritter, Kingston ain't getting a pass if we lose just because it's 7 innings. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Panic Ritter's never had a thought that wasn't panicking in his entire life. I don't know. And I love you, Panic Ritter, but anyways. On 3, by the way, quarterbacks drop their, or they on 3 college football drop their top 100 players, and Spencer Rattler didn't make the top 100. That to me, man, is just that's crazy. I mean, that's I know there's a lot of good players in college football. Do not get me wrong. Drake May is number 2. Drake May, number 2. Madison says, any news for the softball team tonight? It is game day for the softball team. They play tonight at 7 o'clock on ESPN2. So it is game day for them. It is game day, but no news in particular. But yeah, we're double dipping tonight. We're double dipping tonight with baseball at 7, softball at 7. Great night to have a night. Luke RJ, couldn't have said it better, my friend. Beauty is in the banter. Beauty is in the banter until I'm talking about Will Muschamp and Shane Beamer and the culture. And then Luke RJ says, the banter's not so beautiful anymore. Isn't that right, Luke? Oh, man. I mean, listen, to Luke, I'll say this to Luke, RJ, and everybody else. I'm sure there's many folks that were like, Chris, why are you even talking about this? Guys, it's Friday, May the 19th. Like, things like that, if it was the middle of the season and Vincent Murphy's dad said that, well, we got more pressing issues to deal about. But, like, right now, you know what I mean? Right now, it's like there's not quite as much. So something like that is going to get much more attention than it normally would, to be realistic. So, you know, it's again, the beauty's in the banter. It's fun to discuss things like that, honestly. And kind of, like I said, anytime I have the opportunity to dunk on a Muschamp guy or a slapdick in general, I'm going to do it. Let's see. Madison, 106 days till kickoff. Is that right? Yes. Next Thursday, we'll begin our 100 days to kickoff countdown. Brewer Nation, I don't know if you're messing with me or what, but he says negativity sells. I mean, I was actually being overwhelmingly positive talking about Shane Beamer's culture based off that comment. So I know you and I spoke this morning. I mean, controversy creates cash, certainly, but I mean, I was actually using that as an opportunity to inject positivity that Beamer's culture is great. I mean, I think we'd all agree. So let's see. Lynn Turner says this, based on the fact that we have shown vast improvement at least part of the year, I think Kingston has already bought himself another year. Whine if you want. There's going to be some people disagreeing with this. What do y'all think? You think Kingston's bought himself another year already? Lynn, I think you're going to have a lot of people. The beauty's about to be in the banter for you, Lynn, because I think a lot of people are going to disagree with you. I think a lot of people are going to disagree with you. Okay, Bruin Nation says, I was referring to the hair boy about negativity sells. I hear you. Yeah, no, okay. I got you. I figured you were. But again, just wanted to discuss it. I mean, I think it's something interesting. You know, anytime there's an attack on Shane Beamer's culture and the program and what he's doing, I mean, it's especially a former player. I mean, it's noteworthy. It's noteworthy. So, anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377. I think we got more horse racing this weekend. The Preakness Stakes are going on. Power Hour is in full go. Let's see. 770 Locks tweeted out. Only top 20 college defenses returning at least 70% of their production. Missouri returns 80% of their production on defense. Georgia returns 70%. Clemson, 75%. So those three on the Gamecocks schedule. Dude, Missouri's a very interesting team because Drinkwitz, you can say what you want, but, you know, I think he's a slapdick too, but he's a slapdick that owns Carolina football. So, I don't know what it is. I don't know. Is this the year the Gamecocks finally get that tiger-sized monkey off their back in regards to the South Carolina Mizzou series? Dale says, what's up, Dale? Hey, Chris, it's Dale. You ready for old Smokey? I hear you, man. We're ready. Bruin Nation, look at my tweet about Lloyd and Birch. 82,000 views. Bruin Nation, you're a celebrity, man. You're a celebrity. You're a celebrity, man. As we've entered hour number 3, Madison Duncan, the softball game is on ESPN2. The baseball game will be on SEC Network Plus. SEC Network Plus is where you can check that out. So, big one tonight, man. Big one tonight. Of course, Eli Jones will be on the bump. Looking forward to what should be a great crowd. I mean, I'd imagine the Rowdy Roosters will be out and about. I know that, you know, obviously things haven't been going well of late, but I'd imagine there'll be a good crowd, right? Final home weekend or final weekend of the regular season, right? Final home weekend of the regular season. There might be postseason baseball at Founders Park. A lot of that depends on what happens this weekend. But, yeah, so big weekend at Founders for sure. Big weekend at Founders for sure. Let's see. What is the schedule for today in the SEC? Here we go. We do have baseball upcoming actually at 3 o'clock. Auburn and Mizzou. Alabama takes on Ole Miss. Then at 6 o'clock, you got Georgia LSU, as LSU will look to take that series in Athens. Kentucky, Florida at 6:30. Mississippi State A&M at 7. Auburn, Mizzou again at 7. So they're playing a doubleheader today, as is Bama and Ole Miss as well. They'll go at 7. And then the final game of the night, Vandy, Arkansas at 8 o'clock on SEC Network. So, going to be a fun one. Fun day, fun weekend of baseball as the SEC tournament gets set for next week. Going to be a good time. Really good time. So, 843-790-3377. Some guys, it's 843-790-3377 as we cruise into the weekend. Hour number 3 here on this Friday. Like I mentioned, guys, before, Jake Crane will begin to join us Friday, June the 2nd. Until then, we had the conversation with Pete Futak today. Next Friday, I'll air our conversation with Barrett Salee of CBS Sports. And what I'll start doing is normally, we drop those combos on Wednesday or Thursday. We'll do the same moving forward. In the first hour, what we'll probably do is this. Maybe on a lighter content day, whether it's Wednesday, whether it's Thursday, what have you. Probably Wednesday, because I'm thinking about the football season also, and Wednesday's the lighter content day of the two. So what I will do is this. Probably on Wednesdays, we'll chatter for the first 20, 30 minutes, and then we'll have that 30 minutes, typically about a 20 to 30 minute conversation. We'll air that in the first hour as to not overlap with our guest of that day. So anyways, guys, really, really exciting stuff. Have tons of great conversations. One of my favorite parts of what I do is having all these great combos and talking ball and meeting different people, hanging out with different people. It's a lot of fun. So Madison says, here we go. Postseason at Founders may give Kingston some breathing room. I'll tell you this. I hear what Lynn said earlier. I don't think it matters how much they improved during the regular season. If Carolina baseball is not in the Super Regionals, I just don't think it's going to matter. I think with this team, and you look at the heights they reached mid-season, and if they're not able to capitalize on that, I don't know, man. I tell you this. Is he back? I don't know, but the fan base certainly ain't going to want him back. Not going to want him back. And we talked about it in preseason. Super Regionals or bust. Very simple. Super Regionals or bust. That's it. Very, very, very simple. Lynn Turner says, go Arkansas. Yeah, Gamecocks need Arkansas to sweep Vandy. Again, to be in that top four. And South Carolina's got to take care of business. They got to they've got to control their own fate. They got to control their own fate. So, Gamecocks control a lot of their own destiny. Guys, I want to say thank y'all so much again for tuning in. I'll tell you this. I see all the numbers behind the scenes, and I'll tell you, we started producing the podcast and distributing out, I should say, the podcast in our new method on Monday, right? That's when it started, of course. And of course, we started the 3-hour TDCs and what have you. I'll just tell you guys this. Whenever you look at analytics, right, it compares to the previous period or really the previous month. So if I look at Monday through Friday, that 5-day stretch, it will compare that same 5-day stretch exactly a month ago, right? So it compares previous periods, stuff like that. And so it's able to, in that way, like if you look at a 30-day a month view, it's going to compare to the previous month, and it'll tell you if your downloads are up 10%, down 10%, whatever. Well, again, I say thank you all the time because, dude, the numbers right now, this 5-day period compared to last month, and again, we've changed things up, how we're producing content, distributing the podcast downloads, which are plays, right? A download's a play. I just say downloads. Podcast downloads are up 100%. 100%. So that speaks to, the fact that you guys enjoy the new format. You enjoy the 3-hour TDC. You are enjoying the way that the podcast is being produced and distributed. And that feedback is incredible, man. I can't say thank you enough. I'm so happy. It's always a win-win when you are able to make adjustments in business that make business sense, but also you're leading with value and you're driving more value for the end consumer. And that's what we've been able to do. So, guys, thank y'all so much, man, for continuing to tune in and just rock with us and show love. And, I knew that would be the case, but it's a cool thing, man. It's a cool thing to know that y'all have our back, and I really do appreciate it. Let's get back in your questions. Jeff Gullidge says, Chris, excuse me, am I wrong that I'm uneasy about our offense going into the season this year? Offensive line seems like a question mark. Wide receiver outside of Wells is a question mark. And the running back position is a question mark. And most importantly, the play calling is a question mark. Jeff, you bring up great points. Jeff, it's kind of like I talked about last year, where there's 3 different ways to look at the season and look at all the question marks you've presented. There's the Garnet Glasses optimistic view of things. There's the Chicken Curse pessimistic view of things. And then there's the realistic view of things that's right down the middle. And so I think it's fair to assume, Jeff, there's some things that you're mentioning on the offensive side that are going to work out a little bit better than we're expecting. Some of those things you're mentioning, they're going to work out a little bit worse than you're expecting. And some things are going to work out about how we expect. So, are you wrong for feeling a bit uneasy? No, you're not, because there are real question marks. I'll tell you guys this. Jeff Gullidge, are you wrong? No. There are as many reasons, and Jeff, I appreciate the question, by the way. There are as many reasons why this team, this season, could go 6-6 as there are why this team could go 8-4. There's probably more reasons why this team could go 6-6 than go 9-3. To be totally honest with you. I mean, there's question marks all over the field. Now, that comes with every season. You have guys who depart and you have new players step up. And so that's why I'm saying there's two sides the way, two ways to look at everything, right? So you could look at the, I don't know, man, the offensive line, right? Like you lose 2 of 5 guys, Jalen Nichols out with an injury. But then you can look at it as, well, you've recruited these guys and you got these guys ready to step up. Like there's multiple ways to look at it. And so what does that mean for kind of football when the dust settles? But you make a lot of great points because in the offseason, everything is great, right? Everybody's 0-0. Nobody's fumbled the football. Nobody's threw a pick. Nobody's missed a block. Nobody's missed a tackle. Nobody's lost a game. As my camera blurs out on me there for a moment. Nobody's lost a game yet, right? So, going back to the offense, though, specifically, Jeff, I mean, I've been very transparent about it, and I don't really care. I will continue to hold this stance until the ball is snapped. I will have this stance until the ball is snapped. I'm not going into the season with guilty till proven innocent vibes. I don't believe in doing that. I'm not going into the season with, I'm damning him before the ball is ever snapped, but I'm very curious to see what Dowell Loggins looks like. Do I think he can be worse than Marcus Satterfield? No, I do not, because I don't think that's actually even possible to be worse than Marcus Satterfield. But Shane Beamer had me convinced that Satterfield wasn't a slapdick. And guess what? Marcus Satterfield was a slapdick through and through. So forgive me if I need to see a little bit more, if I need a little bit more than just Shane Beamer's word. I need a little bit more. I need to see the on-field production. I need to see the productivity, scoring points. I need to see actual success on offense on the field. All that talk and the press conferences are great, man. It's great. It's great. But I got to see it on the field. So, no, Jeff Gullidge, you're not off base for being a little bit anxious, a little bit worried. There's a lot of reasons to believe that South Carolina could be much improved, and they should be much improved offensively. I mean, you have a quarterback back like in Spencer Rattler. Juice Wells is back, the number 1 target. You add Trey Knox. You add Eddie Lewis at wideout. I mean, there's reasons to believe Carolina will be better offensively. There are, but it's funny how things never seem to work out as easily as you think they will. I mean, guys, this time last year, people were touting and going crazy over, dude, we've got, Dak Joyner's back. We got Spencer Rattler, Jaheim Bell's him. Marshawn Lloyd's the best running back in the league. And again, you put a lot of that on Satterfield. I get it, but just saying, man. A lot of questions. And to Aaron Hodges' point, the offensive line. Last year going into the season, it was a major question mark. It was, quote unquote, better than we expected it to be. Now it almost feels like you're starting back at square one. So, and again, the front half of this schedule with a new OC, with basically a new O-line, I'm a little on edge for it as well. I'm a little bit on edge as well. Guys, let's jump into another break. On the side, I want to continue to hear from you more of your questions, comments, calls, and more. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Marshall Dougie, ho. Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, I'm back. Taking your questions, comments, calls, 843-790-3377 as we continue to rock in our Power Hour. Dale says the Daily Break Show. That's what the show should be called. Good Lord. He also says Chris got a small blatter or something. East Tennessee Inbred has spoken. Thank you, Dale. Appreciate it. Madison says, if you can go read, go hit the like button now. 24 people watching, only 8 hit the button. Come on. Thanks, Madison. I appreciate it. David Barnes, in my opinion, Harbor's way more athletic than Alshon, but he's played less football and has to learn wide receiver, which may take longer since he wasn't here in the spring. We heard a lot about Alshon during the offseason. Yeah, I would say this. Nicholas Harbor has a ways to go as a football player. There will be an adjustment period. And so I think it'll be very important for people to recognize and understand that they're going to have to be patient with Nick Harbor. Like, I don't think week 1 against UNC, he's out there catching the game, catching a touchdown pass. Like, his biggest thing will be learning the nuances of the receiver position, learning the nuances of playing college wide receiver. That'll be the biggest thing for him. He's more of a track star at this point. I mean, obviously, again, great athlete, what have you, but more of a track star, I'd say, at this point. Has to learn route running, catching the football, again, just the nuances of the game. But I'm sure they will find a way. I'm sure they will find a way to get him the football, make him a big, big part of the game plan. No doubt. No doubt. Let's see. Brewer Nation, how about the last 2 national champions aren't even making the SEC tournament? Yeah, Brewer Nation, it's crazy, but I tell you what, we had this conversation, I believe, in the Discord. We had this conversation in the Discord about, would you trade the seat? Like, would you swap spots with those 2 programs? Like, would you take a horrific next season to win a national title this season? And the answer is yes. Yes. Anybody would. Anybody would. Anybody would. Sign me up, man. I just want a national title. Why not? Just give me a national title. Let's see. Running through your questions here. Madison Duncan. Harbor's a true talent. He'll be producing right away. Won't take him long to get going. Just my opinion. And there we go. Right after I said what I said, I see that comment. Dale says, Chris, I'm going to the Myrtle Beach this weekend. Any suggestions? Can't have my Carolina girls. So I'm going to the Carolina coast. Go to the Tin Roof, Dale, or Carolina Ale House. That's always a good time also. They got great sweet tea. I know you're a fan. So per Brennan M., Mississippi State might make the SEC tournament. They might make it. I think some things have to happen. They're still technically not eliminated. Ole Miss is donezo. Ole Miss is – yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, even Carolina last year made the SEC tournament, as bad as we were. So to miss the SEC tournament, you've got to have a horrifically bad year. And I mean, Ole Miss has had that. It's crazy how bad Ole Miss has been this year. What do they have, like 6 SEC wins? Something like 6 SEC wins, something like that. Crazy how bad they have been. Anyways, guys, though, excited for the weekend of baseball. You know, as we creep up to the end of the regular season, I mean, it's crazy to think about. Time flies when you're having fun, most certainly. Next week, guys, I'm really excited because the SEC tournament will begin, and we will not be doing live stream watch-alongs on YouTube, but But we'll be streaming all of the action in the Big Cock Club Discord, patreon.com/Big Cock Club. We'll stream it there. We'll have the game actually pulled up. We'll watch together. We're going to talk, conversate, all that good stuff. Join today to get access to that Discord. And you can watch every single game with us in the SEC tournament, the postseason, all that good stuff. Also, I got to figure out, guys, what we're going to do for not this upcoming Monday, but the next Monday. Because if I remember correctly, and let me see here, I believe, yes, if I recall correctly, and this is correct, Monday, May the 29th at noon Eastern on ESPN2, right? So not this upcoming Monday, the next Monday will be the selection show for the NCAA tournament. So what we might do is do something like 12:30 to 3:30 or something like that because, yeah, I mean, I just think we obviously all want to watch that. we all want to see where South Carolina is going, and unfortunately, we cannot watch that together because it's on ESPN2, obviously, and that is a great way to get your stream ripped off the internet. So, let's see. David Barnes. They don't allow grilling at Gamecock Park. Is that a real thing? I didn't know that. Wow. Is that really a thing, David Barnes? I need confirmation. I need confirmation right now. Does Gamecock Park actually not allow Does Gamecock Park not allow grilling? Really? Wow. Okay. All right. Well, wow. That changes things. That do we have to go back and re-record the tailgate? Dude, that I didn't know that. That's insane. That's insane. I think I got to put Sewell's number one then. I think that's it. That's it. Sewell's number one. And I'd say the fairgrounds number two. You can't even grill? I didn't know. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. I had no idea. Madison Duncan, you're already in the Discord, I believe, right, Madison? You're already in the Discord. So if you just go into the Discord, you scroll all the topics on the left, you scroll all the way down, you'll see voice channels. BCC Hangout is the channel where we stream everything. Yes, on the left side, voice channels at the bottom. You'll see BCC Hangout. Then we also have a gamers channel because people like Chase, Luke RJ, those folks, they love to get in there and game or whatever. So that's the channel. But Brendan made a great point. What we could do, and I don't know if I can make this work or not, but I was just thinking, what we could do is this. We'll do this. We will stream the selection show in the Big Cock Club Discord. And probably what we'll say is we could just go 1 to 4 for TDC. We'll figure that out. We'll figure that out that Monday, but either way, we will stream that in the Big Cock Club Discord and go from there. Anyways, Jacob P. talking about Ja Morant. Here's his comment. Ja Morant, I got to make better decisions, man. Really got to surround yourself with better people. That's the bottom line, Jacob B. A guy like Ja Morant, I don't know if anybody tunes in to hear me talk about Ja Morant or that situation, but you just got to surround yourself with better people, make better decisions, man. You got to. You got to make better decisions. He's a young dude, but you got to grow up. And when you're making that kind of money and a business is investing that kind of money in you, a.k.a. the organization, the team, got to make better decisions, man. Got to make better decisions. So, yeah, tough. Anyways, Brendan makes the point we've beaten top 10 Tennessee, Clemson, and Georgia more recently than we've beaten Missouri. Think about this, guys. Think about how long. I'm about to tell you the last time, and I'm sure y'all know already, but think about how long ago this was. The last time the Gamecocks beat Missouri was the monsoon game. Bro, that feels forever ago. Forever ago. Bro, I didn't even live in Columbia yet. I didn't even live in Columbia. Like, I was not even doing TSUS full time the last time the Gamecocks beat Missouri. Like, crazy, bro. Absolutely crazy. Let's see. Eight 790-3377. Guys, call that number, text that number, whatever you like. Brett McMurphy tweeting this out. Total amount distributed by each Power 5 conference per school in the 2021-2022 fiscal year via USA Today. The Big Ten led the way, $58.8 million given to per school. The SEC right behind, $49.9 million. Big 12 coming in next, $42 to $44.9 million. The ACC, $37.9 to $41.3 million. And the Pac-12, $37 million. Crazy the money in college football these days. It's crazy. Crazy. David Barnes says, I utter the phrase, I'll burn this mother effer down too many times during the Muschamp era. So they took away our fire. My apologies, Gamecock Nation. God. David, that's incredible. Jeff Gullich says, I thought about going to the Missouri game this year, but might just go to the A&M game only. Jeff, you're going to go to College Station. It is crazy. The two longest road trips are back-to-back on the schedule. That I don't know. I don't know who made up that schedule, but I don't know. Weird. I've actually been to Columbia, Missouri. Never been to a game, but I did ride through there one time. Wow. Every great headline ever has started with Florida man, right? Florida man this, Florida man that. The latest one for the New York Post, Florida man gets 4 years for pouring bleach into quote-unquote difficult co-workers' Pepsi. Jeez. You feel like you'd get more than 4 years, right? Like, you basically tried to kill somebody, right? I mean, okay, Jeff, so you're in Texas. All right, so you're not that far from Texas A&M. Okay. College Station would be cool. That'd be a very, very cool road trip. Guys, I'll tell you this, though. I'm looking forward to this season. I am looking forward to the post-game call-in shows, all the content we'll be rocking. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait, man. Also, guys, by the way, it's confirmed. It is confirmed. Let me go ahead and tell you this. Sometime early mid-July, something like that, we will 100% be in a new studio. There will be a new studio. There will be a new studio. We are staying in the upstate, but going to be upgrading the spot a bit. So the studio will get a makeover. It'll look different, and I'm excited for that. I'm very, very excited for that. So the studio will get a bit of a facelift. I'm not exactly sure what it'll look like. It'll depend on the place that we go to, but I'm excited to enhance the studio, man. I think I'm going to give us a lot more of a laid back where you can see the merch type of view, if you will. I've already got kind of the idea in my head, kind of what you saw at Carolina Cigars, honestly. I think that'd be dope. But, yeah, we will have a new studio setup by the latest mid-July. So looking forward to it, man. Looking forward to it. That's already been decided, and we're kind of coming up on that. It's crazy, man. We are coming up on that. So Yep. GA, he says, are you going downtown with the rest of the beautiful people? No, GA, I don't know where it'll be. I'm gonna get into a house, but I don't know exactly if it'll be downtown, what part of the upstate. But now I'll be going from this place to a house. So I'm looking forward to it though, man. Like I said, gonna get an even bigger studio. It's crazy. A lot of my decision making for where I live has to do with, hey, what's the studio setup like? We got to have a dope stew. So, no, it'll be fun, man. It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. The places we're looking at right now are beautiful. So, yeah, it's gonna be nice. It's gonna be really, really nice. But anyways, guys, appreciate y'all. We got some big things also. We got some big things also on the merchandise side of the business in the works behind the scenes. So stay tuned for that. On three sports, college football top 100, the top 10 wide receivers in the top 100. Juice Wells ranks at 54th. They've got him the 54th best player in college football. I would assume, this is the top 100 players in college football for the 2023 season. So I would assume. What? All right. I'm not trying to throw shade, all right? I'm not trying to throw shade. This is wild to me, though. I'm going to give y'all a guess. All right? There are two players in the on-3 college football top 100. Juice Wells is one of them. The other one is not Spencer Rattler. Who is the other Gamecock that is in the top 100 of the 100 best players overall, 100 best players in college football? Juice Wells is one of them at 54. The other is ranked 67. It's not Spencer Rattler, though. Who is it? I'd be willing to bet you would not be able to guess it. This is stunning to me. I'm not even trying to hate on the guy, but, it's stunning. It's stunning to me. It's not Kai Kroger. It's absolutely not Kai Kroger. No. It is not Mitch Jeter. It is not Trey Knox. Y'all keep going. Anybody else got a guess? I'm telling you, I would have never top 100 players in college football. Top 100 players in college football. It is not Nick Emanwari, which is crazy. It is not Xavier Legette. I'll go ahead and tell you guys. Coming in, it is not De'Carrion Joyner, GA. Coming in at number 67 in the top 100 players in college football for the 2023 season, South Carolina defensive back Marcellus Dial. Listen, I'm not trying to hate. I like Marcellus Dial. Bro, Marcellus Dial ain't even the best player in his own secondary. You got him the 67th overall player? He was good last year, but what? That's crazy to me. I'm not trying to throw shade. Lenore Sellers says Bruin Nation. I'm not trying to throw shade. Jacob E., the question was simply this. Again, On 3 Sports dropped their top 100 players for the 2023 college football season. Juice Wells was at 54. Again, this is all of college football. Juice Wells is 54. At number 67, Marcellus Dial. He was the only other Gamecock listed. So Spencer Rattler doesn't make the top 100, but Marcellus Dial makes the top 100. Again, I'm not hating on Marcellus Dial. I'm just surprised. I'm surprised. Flat out. I'm surprised. Brendan M. can call me a Marcellus Dial hater. I think you're just biased because he went to Woodruff, which is totally fine, whatever. Everybody's got a bias or something, I guess. I mean, I don't dislike Marcellus Dial. I'm just very surprised that, like, how is Nick Imawari not that guy? Let's go through the stats. 2 seasons at South Carolina, 78 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 forced fumble, 21 pass deflections. Yes, he's got 3 interceptions, and they were all last year. So, I mean, he had a good year last year. I'm not sitting here saying he did not have a good year. I am not saying he did. He had a very good year last year. I'm just surprised that he's ranked ahead of, there's no Spencer Rattler on that list. There's no Nicky Mawari on that list. But Marcellus Dial, sure enough, is on that list. So, there you go. Hey, congratulations. Bruin Nation says, Dial is being pumped up big time this offseason. I mean, I don't think he's, again, obviously, like, he's one of our starting corners. I don't think he's a bad player, but, like, let me ask you this. Do we think he's Cam Smith level? Is he Darius Rush level? I mean, I could see him being like Darius Rush. I could see that. And Darius Rush was very, very good. I don't know. I feel like I'm also forgetting, like, a lot of his big plays last year. He had the pick in the Clem Sucks game. The deep throw to down the field that was thrown, overthrown and whatever. Anyways, he had a pick against Georgia State that I forgot about. Let's see. Got the video pulled up. Okay, rolling to the right, and he picks it off at the 5-yard line. So those were 2 of his picks. Where was his third? Oh, he had a pick against SC State. All right. A ball that was literally just tossed up. Again, I'm not like dogging Marcellus. I really honestly forgot. Hey, I hope I hope he turns out to be like the next Cam Smith, the next JC Horn, or the next great DB. That just surprised me that he was top 100. Like that again, over Spencer Rattler, over Nick Imawari, like some of these other guys that feel like the more obvious answers. But again, maybe Jeff Gullidge, how much of it do you think they left Spencer off because of the history of Spencer or him being on that Netflix show? Jeff, I don't think anybody's factoring in the Netflix show anymore. If they are, it's just pure slapdickery. No, I think that Spencer Rattler got left off because I think a lot of people still nationally, they look at the end of the season and say that was great, but they see all of his inconsistency last year. And they see, I mean, dude, his stats were still very pedestrian last year. They were. 18 touchdowns to 12 picks. I mean, and I think most people still see him as like, all right, he's going to be that inconsistent gunslinger type of quarterback. So until he can show consistency, I don't know if he's going to get the amount of respect and the benefit of the doubt that especially Gamecock Nation is willing to give him, if that makes sense. So he's still got a lot to prove. He's still got a lot to prove in this upcoming season. Lot to prove. Also, yeah, GA makes the point. Kai Kroger, why not? Like, why would Kai Kroger not be top 100? And again, Brendan, it's not Marcellus Dial hate. It's not. But I'm going back here in the chat. I do not believe. Yeah, Marcellus Dial wasn't your first guess. That's all I'm saying. You thought it was Kai or Mitch Jeter. So, to be fair. Guys, let's jump into one final break. On the side, we'll take your questions, comments, calls, and we'll close this thing out as we head into the weekend. More of that on the side. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Muscle Dougie, ho. Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, are back. Final 10 minutes or so in the Daily Crow, taking your questions, comments, calls as we conclude our Power Hour in hour number 3 as we go into The weekend, TGIF, great stuff, guys. Again, thank you all so much for the continued love and support all week long. Truly appreciate each and every single one of you who tune in on a day-in, day-out basis. Let's see. Jeff Gullidge said his picks were horrible, talking about Rattler. Lynn Turner says his receivers frequently jogged lazy routes early in the season. I was watching. My son played quarterback, so I looked beyond just that throw was in the wrong place. Yeah, Lynn, the offense was out of sorts in a number of different areas early in the season. So, Jacob E, is what the Houston Astros did worse than steroids? I say yes. I would probably say yes, Jacob E. Both are cheating, so, but I'd probably say yes as well. Let's see. Austin Malicious, he sees Marcellus Dial closer to Israel Mukwamu. Okay. Fair enough. Again, I like Bruin Nations. Lenora Sellers, top 100 player in college ball. Hadn't even taken a snap. Why not? Why not? Bruin Nation says, moving to Muschamp Island. I got you. Yeah. You spoiled it. You spoiled it. You got me. Chase says, move up here on Lake Bowen. Will do. Will do. Will do. Let's see. Ethan Petrie and Cole Messina named semifinalists for the Dick Hauser Trophy. Nice. Very good. I love this from Barstool. Name a player you thought would be good but sucked. And I guess this applies to, they've got all their pictures are pro sports, but I mean, this could also apply to college sports. And my God, the list. Because, dude, there are just so many misses in recruiting. There's so many misses in recruiting. So many. When we talk about busts, the biggest bust, right? Again, guys, appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Thank you all so much. Really excited for the weekend, obviously. Gamecocks taking on Tennessee. Huge series at Founders Park. Huge series. Lot on the line this weekend. Tennessee trying to earn a hosting bid. Carolina trying to lock up their hosting bid. Bruin Nation, who was the bigger bust here, Lloyd or Birch? Got to be Jordan Birch. Has to be. Has to be Jordan Birch. Next question. I mean, I say Birch. Chase Floyd says every quarterback for Carolina between Dylan Thompson and Rattler. Chase, I think Luke RJ would fight you on the DeCarrion Joyner aspect. But yes, I mean, dude. I mean, that's the thing, too. Like, and I'm certainly not trying to – I know Bruin Nation are going to jump through the screen at me, but I'm not trying to lump Lenora Sellers, obviously, in there because, that'd be so unfair to do. The only thing is that's why I say just be patient. You know what I mean? Don't – I'm kind of past the point of anointing or touting a dude as the next guy. You know what I mean? Like, I'll let him prove it on the field. We've had so many guys who are the next guy step on this campus. You know what, man? Go out there and just prove it. Just go out there and prove it. Every quarterback that's come in has had tons of hype. They've had a skill set. Just do it on the field, man. Just do it on the field. And I think he can. I think he will, but, you just never know, man. You just never know. David Barnes says, what will be a more Carolina thing to happen this weekend? Sweep or get swept? Sweep, definitely, David. Sweep. Definitely the sweep. Bruin Nation, he doesn't need to be rushed in unless he has to be because he's better than Luke Doty. I mean, Bruin Nation, there's many out there that would agree with you that he is better than Luke Doty and that Luke Doty should not be QB2. And, I will say this, after cooling down a bit, Bruin Nation, from the spring game, I've cooled down a little bit, right? Been a couple weeks. I'd probably say that Luke Doty is going to be QB2 this season. I think he's going to be QB2. I think Lenoris Sellers, if used, is used situationally. I don't think he's used in a position where, I mean, Spencer Rattler is going to play practically every snap this year. Knock on wood, he doesn't get hurt. He's going to play every snap. I think if Lenoris Sellers plays, it's going to be situationally. He's not going to start a game, I don't think. But I was thinking about that actually about a week or so ago. Like bold predictions for the Carolina 2023 season. Like bold predictions, right? You're not saying this is going to happen for sure, but like if you were to make a bold prediction, could one possibly be that somebody not named Spencer Rattler starts a game this year? I mean, I don't want that to be the case. I don't know. I feel like that's a little bit over the top. I feel like at that point you're reaching for a bold pick. Reaching for a bold prediction, if you will. So, anyways. Jeff Gullidge says, I haven't given up on Doty yet. I don't know that I've given up on him, Jeff. Do I think Luke Doty will ever be in a position where he's the dude at South Carolina ever again? Probably not. I don't think so. I think his days, Jeff Gullidge, as this team's starting quarterback, are probably over. I really do. I really do. And it's unfortunate. But I'll tell you this, guys, before we get out of here. Just we're having these conversations. Obviously Spencer Rattler's our quarterback. Just imagine had he went to the draft, though. How much different would this season look? And how much different would this season and like projections look for this year had he not come back? I mean, thank goodness we don't have to. Thank goodness we don't have to think about that necessarily because he is back. It's wild, though. It's wild how, like, those decisions can so drastically, impact the outlook of a season. Wild. Absolutely wild. So, let's see. David Barnes, who scores more touchdowns, Doty in garbage time or Sellers situationally? David, I'm going to go with Sellers situationally because I'll be honest with you. I went into last season, David, thinking there'd be a lot of garbage time, and there wasn't, and I don't see that being the case again. I really don't. I mean, Furman, there will be garbage time. Jacksonville State, probably garbage time. Probably not as much as you'd think, though. Outside of that, hopefully Georgia, there's not garbage time because the only garbage time there'll be is we're getting killed. I mean, outside of that, though, you're not getting a lot of garbage time. So I will go Lenoris Sellers will have more touchdowns situationally than Doty will have in his garbage time appearances. I'll roll with that. Guys, hey, that's going to do it, man. Thank you all so much. Final question going into the weekend from GA. If Spencer left, would Sellers be the starting quarterback over Luke Doty? God, man, what a debate. And Bruin Nation made the point this offseason would be crazy about the quarterback spot. Especially, can you guys imagine the spring game that took place and Spencer Rattler's not the quarterback and like Shane Beamer's trying to sell everybody that, Luke Doty's the starting quarterback and it's like we just watched the spring game. It'd be a mess. But thankfully, we don't have to entertain that craziness quite yet. Guys, that being said, we've hit 3 o'clock. Hey, thank you all so much, man. Again, thank you so much for the love and support all throughout the week from the podcast, obviously our live show here on YouTube, the merchandise, all aspects of the business, man. I cannot say thank you enough. Truly grateful for each and every single one of you that tunes in, and looking forward to a fun weekend as the Gamecocks take on Tennessee, 7 o'clock tonight, doubleheader tomorrow at Founders Park in the final regular season weekend of the 2023 baseball season. Guys, again, appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you all so much. Hey, shout out to softball too, by the way. Gamecocks beat Central Florida on the softball side of things. beat Tennessee on the baseball diamond, and we will talk to you all on Monday. Actually, wait. We'll talk to you on Sunday night for our Rowdy Rooster Rundown as we recap and break down everything that happened over the weekend. Guys, thank y'all so much. Appreciate y'all. Y'all have a great weekend. We will talk to you all